He's not my son anymore. That's what my father said. 8 words. No emotion, no hesitation. Just 8 clean, cold words that sliced deeper than any jail sentence ever could. But let me back up, because this isn't just a story about betrayal. It's one of those revenge stories where the twist doesn't come from what I did to them, but what they did to me, while smiling for family photos. My name's Noah Caldwell. I'm 27. I work in cybersecurity. Or I did. 2 years ago, I was that kid who played by the rules, graduated early, got a solid job, paid off my parents' second mortgage with $25,000 of my bonus money. No big speeches. I didn't ask for praise, just a seat at the table. Some basic damn respect. But in my family, if your name wasn't Savannah, my older sister, you were basically a background character. She could crash cars, lose jobs, start yoga brands and abandon them mid-launch, and somehow still be the shining light. I got a promotion and was told I was too proud. She borrowed $30,000 and never paid it back. I spot a security breach at work and report it. I'm suddenly the prime suspect in a federal cybercrime case. That's how it started. A Tuesday, quiet morning. I was brushing my teeth when the knock came. Loud, authoritative, like they already knew they had the right guy. I opened the door to 4 police officers and a printed warrant. Mr. Caldwell, you're under arrest for digital theft, fraud, and breach of fiduciary trust. I actually laughed, like laughed out loud, thought it was some dumb mistake. That laughter died the second I felt the handcuffs click shut. My neighbours peeked out their blinds. One of them filmed it. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing in the cruiser. News alerts, texts. I was embarrassed, but not scared, not yet, because I had people, right? I got one call. Naturally, I called my dad. Dad, it's me. I've been falsely arrested. They think I... He cut me off. We saw the news, he said, cold, robotic. You embarrassed this family. Don't call again. Click. I froze. My whole chest just collapsed. I stared at the receiver like it might come back to life, like maybe I'd heard wrong, like maybe he'd call back and say he didn't mean it. He didn't. I tried my mum, straight to voicemail. I didn't bother with Savannah. By the next morning, my public defender, yes, public defender because I couldn't afford a lawyer, told me something that made everything worse. Your parents were contacted to assist with bail. Your father said, and I quote, "Don't help him. He's dead to us." Then he added, "Let her rot." Let her rot. He didn't even get my gender right. My bail was set at $10,000. And let's be clear, my parents had that in liquid savings, easy. This wasn't about money, this was about rejection. Permanent, strategic, heartless rejection. The holding cell was packed, smelled like sweat and metal. My shoelaces were taken. No one told me how long I'd be there. 72 hours passed before I was moved to county jail. I remember staring at the ceiling one night, trying to figure out what part of my life had been so offensive to my family. Was it being too responsible, too invisible, too inconvenient? Later, I'd find out something that shattered me even more. On day 4, my lawyer told me he'd presented my biometric alibi, proof I was in my apartment, secured by smart lock and time-stamped to the state. And you know who else saw that? My mother. She was contacted. The attorney told her there was strong reason to believe I was being framed. She refused to respond, said she didn't want to get involved. Didn't want to get involved. Let me paint this clearly. 5 years ago, when their house was one payment away from foreclosure, I co-signed a personal loan in my name to save it. I paid down $25,000. No complaints, no lecture, just a signature. Back then, my dad called me a real man of the family. But now, they used that same loan, my money, to invest in some crypto scam with Savannah's fiancé, Nathan. And when I was thrown in a cage, they left me there to rot, just like he said. There's a kind of silence in jail that isn't peaceful. It's hollow, like the quiet between thunder and lightning. That's when I realized something dangerous. They wanted me gone, and they got their wish. But what they didn't know was I don't stay gone. And I don't forget, not the faces, not the voices, not the betrayal. I may have lost everything that day, but they just lost me. And that's going to cost them a hell of a lot more than $10,000. You ever lie awake somewhere you don't belong? Fluorescent lights buzzing above your head, cold metal bed frame digging into your spine, and the only thing keeping you company is the echo of your own thoughts asking, how did I end up here? Yeah, that was my first week in county jail. No sleep, no privacy, no sense of time, just the sound of fights breaking out over leftover pudding and broken remotes, just the smell of rust, bleach and defeat. And me, lying there with nothing but a paper-thin blanket and one question chewing through my brain. How do you go from saving your family to being treated like you're already dead? 5 years ago, my parents were drowning. Foreclosure letter on the fridge. Creditors calling during dinner. I was fresh out of college with my first real paycheck. And what did I do? I didn't hesitate. I co-signed a $50,000 loan in my name so they wouldn't lose the house, then chipped in $25,000 from my savings to help them stay afloat. I didn't do it for a thank you. I just didn't want them to suffer. But I guess I was never saving my family. I was buying time before they decided I was disposable. Day 14. Inside, my public defender came in, tired eyes, coffee breath. He said, "They're still refusing to post bail, even with the security footage you gave us, even with proof that the breach came from another IP." Then he showed me something that felt like a stab to the chest, a scanned email from my mother to him, short, cold. "We believe Noah needs to face consequences. He's always pushed boundaries. Maybe this will teach him something." She wrote that. About me, to the man trying to get me out of jail. I didn't cry, I didn't scream, I just sat there breathing slow, like I'd just swallowed battery acid. That was the moment I stopped hoping they'd come around. I wasn't the rebellious kid, I wasn't the screw-up, I was the one who showed up, quietly, consistently, and they threw me away like old mail. Let me ask you something, just real talk, person to person. If your own mom did that to you, what would you do? Because honestly, I've been trying to make sense of it for years. And if you've been through something like this, where you gave people every piece of yourself and they still made you the villain, drop a comment. I'm not the only one walking around with invisible bruises, right? Back in jail, I started learning how to survive in a place where kindness gets you eaten alive. You don't make friends, you make allies. You don't explain, you observe. You don't hope, you plan. One night I was scrubbing floors to avoid a cell fight, and a guy named Reggie leaned over and said, "You don't belong here." I didn't respond. So he added, "You're not scared enough to be soft, but not angry enough to be dangerous. You're something else. You're thinking." He was right, because I wasn't counting days anymore. I was counting patterns, access logs, security protocols. What time the guards switched out, the structure, that's what they'd underestimated. My brain. I may have been boxed in physically, but mentally, I was already halfway out. Week 4. I got a letter from my old co-worker, James, one of the few who believed me. He'd found old company logs and security memos in archived systems, stuff most people forgot. That's when we found the breach timing didn't match my location. At 3:23 a.m., the funds were moved. At that exact time, my biometric locked front door showed I hadn't left my apartment since midnight. Security footage backed it up. And guess what? The IP address tied to the transfer. It came from a remote access VPN used only by admin staff. That VPN was set up on Nathan Bell's laptop, Savannah's fiancé. The same guy who'd once asked me, "Hey bro, can you show me how to set up a cold wallet?" He used my own help to bury me. And my parents? They had that information weeks ago. They just didn't care. They wanted me gone. I was the soft one, the easy one to blame. I made them look bad by simply not failing. They didn't want truth, they wanted silence. But silence doesn't mean surrender, not for me, because if I was going to be written off like some family mistake, then I'd become the kind of mistake they couldn't erase. Not now, not ever. There's a moment, somewhere around week 6 in jail, where your brain stops keeping track of what day it is and starts tracking everything else. I didn't know if it was Wednesday or Friday, but I knew exactly how long it took for the night guards to swap shifts, 11 minutes and 22 seconds. I knew which inmate had dental problems and smuggled ibuprofen in his sock. I knew who paid attention, who snapped easily, and who talked too much when scared. I wasn't counting days anymore. I was building a blueprint, because if no one was coming to rescue me, I was going to build my own exit, layer by layer. Reggie was the first one to see it. We were mopping the common area when he leaned over, low voice, and said, "You ain't here to survive, are you? You're building something." I didn't answer. He chuckled like he already knew. "That look in your eyes, that's war planning." He was right. I wasn't just trying to prove my innocence. I was building the case they'd wish they never ignored. I started with the logs. You see, cybersecurity isn't just about firewalls and passwords. It's about patterns, how people move, what they touch, when they slip. And the hack that got me arrested, it was too clean. Whoever did it didn't guess my password. They knew what they were doing. Worse, they knew how I worked. And that narrowed it down fast. I reached out to the only former co-worker who still believed me, James. He wasn't flashy, but he knew systems. Through an old freelance LLC I'd registered years back, we set up encrypted mail exchanges. I asked him for archived logs from the company, stuff they'd have deleted from active servers. He pulled them. And what we found made my stomach flip. The breach happened at 3:23 a.m. At that exact time, my apartment's biometric lock showed I'd entered at 2:57 a.m., surveillance footage. Showed me never leaving again until morning. I was across town, physically, provably. But that's not what sealed it. What sealed it was the second IP address. A remote login using the company's internal admin VPN. It shouldn't have been active from the outside, but it was. And guess who had admin access recently? Nathan Bell, my sister's perfect little fiancé, the same guy who once asked, "Hey bro, how do you encrypt a cold wallet for crypto again?" I showed him. And he used that knowledge to siphon $48,000 in crypto, reroute it offshore, and dump the entire trail onto my credentials. The arrogance, the laziness. He didn't even cover his tracks properly, just relied on the fact that my family would believe the worst of me first, and they did. When I got that confirmation, I didn't scream. I didn't punch walls or write letters filled with rage. I just sat down on my bunk, leaned my head back, and whispered, "Gotcha." But that wasn't enough. I wasn't trying to just get out of jail. I was going to burn the entire narrative they'd built about me to the ground. That meant no shortcuts. I spent nights reading jailhouse law books. Reggie, who'd been in and out of courtrooms for over a decade, started coaching me on how to frame evidence so it couldn't be ignored. He didn't care why I was in there. He just respected the fact that I wasn't folding. "I've seen guys come in swinging and leave sobbing," he told me. You're the opposite. Quiet when you came in, dead silent now, and that scares people." Good, let them be scared. Because I was done playing soft. Around that time, Savannah posted a photo on Instagram. Some lakeside cabin, matching sweatshirts, big smiles, the caption, "Grateful for those who always stand by you. You know who you are." You know that feeling when something inside you breaks and then resets harder? Yeah, that was it. She knew. Nathan had slipped up. He was nervous. And she covered for him anyway. Let me say this clearly. She could have cleared my name with one text. Just one text to say, "Noah didn't do this," but she didn't. Because in our family, protecting the lie was always more important than protecting the person. I compiled the evidence slowly. Emails, IP logs, biometric data, camera timestamps. Built a case file so tight, so surgically clean, that when my lawyer saw it, he blinked 3 times before saying, "Holy, you did this from jail?" I nodded. He exhaled and said, "Okay, let's bury them." And that's when I realised something else. I wasn't just going to prove I was innocent. I was going to rewrite the story they tried to stick me with. No more disappointment, no more problem child, no more scapegoat. When I got out, because I would get out, I wasn't going back. Not to the family dinners, not to the group texts, not to the house I'd helped save. They chose to throw me away. And I was going to make sure they'd never get a second chance to pretend I was part of the picture. The day I got out of jail, the sky was grey. Not stormy, not dramatic, just grey, silent, like the world had moved on without me. A guard handed me a black trash bag. Inside was my old hoodie, my cracked phone, and 1 shoelace. I guess I should have been happy. Free man. Case dropped. Innocent. But it didn't feel like freedom. It felt like walking out of a grave no one even remembered digging. No balloons, no car waiting, no hug. Not even a text that said, "Hey, heard you're out." I stood outside for a solid 5 minutes, just watching cars pass, like I was invisible. Because to them, I was. And maybe I always had been. A few days earlier, my lawyer had finally confirmed it. Charges dropped. No further action. You're free. When I asked if anyone from my family had reached out, he shook his head. Still radio silence. I'm sorry, Noah. I wasn't surprised. But damn, it still hurt. Savannah didn't say a word. No Instagram story, no glad you're home, nothing. You'd think if your brother went to jail for something your fiancé actually did, you'd at least try to make it right? But silence? Silence was easier. And in our family, silence meant consent. Consent to lies, to betrayal, to pretending nothing happened. I checked my phone. Dead battery. Figures. I walked 5 blocks to a gas station, bought a charger, sat on a plastic crate near the bathroom door, and plugged it in. When it turned on, I saw the last notification was from over 4 months ago. From James, my co-worker. Got the logs. You were right. Hang in there. No missed calls, no voicemails, just this emptiness. You ever realize you could vanish and not a single person in your family would even notice? Yeah. That realization, it burns slow. I found a sublet room off a Craigslist ad. No windows, weird smell. But it was cheap and anonymous, exactly what I needed. Every night I'd sit on the floor staring at the ceiling, wondering if I was really free, because outside the bars I still felt like I was doing time. Time for caring too much, time for trusting the wrong people, time for believing blood meant loyalty. Spoiler alert, it doesn't. One night, about a week after I got out, I walked past my parents' house. The lights were on, porch decorated, wind chimes still hanging. It looked exactly the same. And somehow that hurt the most. They hadn't lost sleep. They hadn't lost weight. They hadn't changed a thing. It's like I was never there to begin with. I stood across the street, watching through the dark. My mom walked past the window, holding a cup of tea. She paused just for a second and looked out, right at me. Our eyes met. She didn't flinch, didn't open the door, didn't step outside. She just turned off the light. That's when it hit me. They weren't ashamed. They weren't sorry. They were relieved. Relieved I hadn't come back to disrupt the perfect little world they rebuilt on top of my silence. They thought I'd fade, that I'd disappear like a smudge they could wipe clean. They didn't know the truth. That silence wasn't surrender. It was preparation. I stopped going near their house after that, not because I couldn't face them, but because they didn't deserve the courtesy. I focused instead. Started working under the radar, consulting gigs through old freelance connections. I built back my name from the ground up, but this time outside their world. No friends of the family, no legacy connections, just me. And you know what? It was better that way. You'd think that after something like this I'd want revenge immediately. Kick down doors, name names, burn everything down. But nah, that's not how you break people like my family. You don't scream, you don't beg, you wait, you rebuild, you rise. And then, when they finally look up again, you're already the one holding all the pieces. You ever disappear on purpose? Not because you're hiding, but because you're watching. I didn't go silent because I was broken. I went silent because I was building, and while they thought I was licking wounds in some hole, I was setting up the very trap they'd walk into, with their heads held high. The first 6 months after I got out were quiet. I worked under an old freelance LLC I'd registered years back, Caldwell Systems. I cleaned up, shaved, dressed down. No flash, no attention, just long hours and short replies. I didn't use LinkedIn. I didn't network in my old circles. I built a new life from scratch with people my family didn't even know existed. The silence worked. They stopped checking. They assumed I'd faded. They didn't know I was finally standing. Then came the letter. An old manila envelope, handwritten address, no return name, just a military base stamp. Inside, a notarized copy of my grandfather's will and a note. He said if anything ever happened to him, you were the only Caldwell with any integrity. Said you'd know what to do. I froze. Grandpa William, my mum's father, a hard man, sharp, quiet. He never liked my parents, called them smile and knife people. Turns out, he was right. The will was airtight. 2 years before he died, he'd rewritten everything, cutting out his own daughter and granddaughter completely. He left $2.1 million in assets, the house my parents lived in, technically still in his name, $150,000 seed funding loan for Nathan's startup, marked as retractable upon misuse. An 80-acre piece of land my sister Savannah was already developing for her wellness retreat, and a life insurance policy set to kick in on unexpected circumstances, all placed into a living trust, all locked behind a trigger clause, to be released only to Noah Caldwell upon proof of continued integrity. I was that proof. You know what the best part was? The trust had been dormant this whole time. My family had no idea. They were mid-project, mid-spending, mid-bragging, and I had the keys. I activated the trust a week later, walked into the estate attorney's office in a thrift store button-up, sat down and said, "It's time." He looked at the paperwork, looked at me, and just nodded. 3 days later, a foreclosure notice was taped to my parents' front door. Funds were pulled from Nathan's business account, citing misuse and breach of trust. Savannah received a certified cease and desist letter. The land she was building on now legally belonged to me. Trespassing would result in legal action. They didn't call me, not at first. They posted cryptic quotes online. People can be so cold. Family doesn't always mean blood. Sometimes the ones you help the most cut you the deepest. No names, just guilt-drenched noise. Then Savannah's Retreat brand started bleeding money. Investors pulled out, contractors stopped replying. One unpaid designer posted invoices and DMs to Reddit. It went viral. Comments weren't kind. Wellness brand built on stolen land. Not very peaceful of you. Nathan tried to play smart, claimed the $150K had already been moved to crypto, said family money can't be recalled once it's reinvested. Too bad Grandpa had written a clawback clause. The courts didn't buy Nathan's act. They froze his accounts, launched a civil case. He's still in depositions. My parents were the last to break. I got an email first. "Noah, this is your mother. You've made your point. We're struggling now. Please stop. You're hurting your own family." Then came a voicemail from my dad. "This house isn't just a building, it's memories. How could you take that from us?" I didn't answer, not yet. I waited until I had the full picture. When the bank records showed they'd stopped paying utilities, when Savannah's site went down, when Nathan's business got flagged for fraud, then I picked up the phone. It rang 3 times. My mum answered, crying already. "You can't do this to your own parents." I didn't raise my voice. I didn't shout. I just said, "You already did this to your son. I'm just returning the favour." Then I hung up. They taught me that blood meant sacrifice. I gave them my time, my money, my silence. They gave me betrayal, abandonment, and a jail cell. So now I gave them the truth. In court filings, in foreclosure notices, in every legal document that proved I never needed to scream to be heard. They left me in a cage. I left them in a mess they built, without the one person who could have pulled them out. The foreclosure went through in 31 days, not because I rushed it. No, I waited the full grace period. I gave them time to adjust, time to call, time to show a shred of humanity. They didn't. Instead, my father emailed a lawyer, tried to delay the process, citing emotional distress. My mother sent a handwritten letter, pages smudged with tears, phrases like, "You were always so sensitive, and we didn't mean to hurt you." You know what the wildest part is? They still thought they were the victims. Savannah posted some dramatic photo on Instagram, her standing barefoot in a field, wind blowing through her perfectly curled hair. The caption? "Sometimes your own blood tries to drown you, but I choose light." Light? She stood there while I sat behind bars. She let her fiancé steal, frame me, ruin my name, then said nothing. And now she's the one choosing light. No, Savannah, you're just mad the lights got turned on. Nathan tried to meet with me, sent a business proposal, said he wanted to rebuild and start over. I flagged it, forwarded it to the court-appointed trustee overseeing the civil suit. Turns out contacting me directly violated a no-contact clause in his bail terms. I didn't even need to respond. The law did it for me. And my parents, they didn't move out until the very last day. I got a call from the cleanup crew, said they found unopened bank statements stuffed in drawers, family portraits shattered in the garage, and a shoebox full of legal threats they never sent. It's like they were preparing for war against me while pretending to be helpless. That's what hurt the most. Not the silence, not the betrayal, but the fact they were ready for this, just in case I ever came back strong. They'd rather fight me than face what they did to me. I didn't go to the house during the move-out. I sent a legal team. They handled it with clean suits and clipboards. The same house I once helped save. It wasn't a home anymore, just a symbol, and that symbol now belonged to me. A week later, the final nail dropped. The life insurance policy, the one my grandfather set up, finally cleared probate. They thought it'd be split among the family. It wasn't. He changed the beneficiaries 5 years before his death. 100% to me. Total payout, $600,000. I didn't keep it. Not all of it. I donated $250,000 to a legal aid fund for the wrongly incarcerated, set up a scholarship in Grandpa's name, quietly, anonymously. The rest, I used to buy a modest house, far from them, far from their drama, far from their memory, and yet, even after all that, there was still a voice in me, whispering, "Is it over? Is it enough?" That voice wasn't angry, it was hollow, because revenge doesn't always come with fireworks. Sometimes it's just quiet. A cold cup of coffee on the table they no longer sit at. An empty inbox where apology might have lived. 3 weeks after the dust settled, I got a letter. Another one, same handwriting, my mum's. Inside, a photo. It was me, at 10 years old, holding a trophy, standing between her and my dad, big, proud smiles, that perfect family snapshot. She wrote, "I keep this on my nightstand. Please believe me, we didn't know it would go this far." I stared at that line. We didn't know it would go this far. What did they think would happen? That I'd rot in silence? That I'd stay broken just enough to be forgotten? That I'd crawl back? No, I didn't burn the bridge. They buried it. And I just made sure they never walked over me again. I didn't respond, but I did write something for myself. A journal entry, just 2 lines. I am not the son they remember. I am the man they erased and now have to live without. People ask if I regret it, taking everything, freezing the accounts, seizing the house, destroying the wellness brand with 1 envelope of truth. And you know what? Sometimes, yes. Not because they didn't deserve it, but because I deserved better. I deserved a mother who would have answered the phone, a father who would have believed me for once, a sister who would have said, "He's not perfect, but he's not a criminal." But I didn't get that. So they didn't get me. Now, I run a private security consulting firm. Small team, good people, clean cases. Reggie, the guy I met in jail, he's now my operations manager, gives lectures on prison reform, gets invited to speak at law schools. Funny how we both came out of that place sharper. He told me something a few weeks ago while we were reviewing a client file. Man, they really threw away gold, huh? I didn't respond right away. Then I said, they didn't throw me away. They tried, but I climbed out of the trash and bought the recycling plant. He laughed so hard he knocked over his coffee, and maybe that's the real ending here. Not vengeance, not justice, but evolution. They stayed stuck. I didn't. So now, if you ask me who I am, I'm the man they said was dead to us, and I'm very much alive. Let's talk. Have you ever been made to feel like you didn't belong in your own family, like they rewrote the story and erased you from it? If that hit home, I want to hear it. Comment below and tell me what they said to make you feel dead to them. Let's bring those ghosts into the light, because silence protects the wrong people and you deserve to be heard. Be